You see all types of drama play out in the NFL offseason. Who's going to get traded where? Who's going to sign where? And sometimes you see those big deals and you're like, wow. And sometimes that comes out of guys getting big contracts, like the Jaguars giving Christian Kirk the money that they did for a guy that's never even had a 1,000-yard receiving season. But those types of deals happen every year in free agency. Some teams just can't help themselves. Some guys have phenomenal agents that manage to position themselves in a way where they can get maximum money for their clients. But then you have those like big whopper deals. And Khalil Mack getting traded by the Bears to the Chargers is a surprise, but only a small surprise in the sense of, like, if you really were paying attention, the Bears were going to trade Khalil Mack this offseason. He had to be not really connected to reality to think that that wasn't going to happen. You know what I mean? We're still waiting for the ultimate Deshaun Watson decision and what's going to go down there and where he's going to go. And that'll obviously be big news for a variety of reasons when that deal ultimately goes down. And whether that's going to impact Matt Ryan, what's going on with Baker Mayfield. Like, there's all types of drama here. Obviously, the Russell Wilson trade, I didn't even get to that yet. There's a lot of big deals. But honestly, the most surprising deal of all of this offseason cycle so far to me has to be that the Green Bay Packers are trading Davante Adams to the Las Vegas Raiders for a first and second round pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. Like, this is stunning. This was something I don't think many of us saw coming. And regardless of how much the reporters like the Rappaports and the Schefters and others try to sit there and talk about it like they knew, they didn't know, because if they had, they would have been reporting this situation earlier than after the news broke. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying to go back and course correct. They're trying to go back and retrace their steps. The reality is everybody kind of got caught with their pants down. Now, we knew about the reports of Davante Adams not wanting to play under the franchise tag, being pissed about having the franchise tag placed on him. But most of us logically, reasonably looked at this and said, okay, yeah, he wants to get paid. Can't blame him. Get paid. And now that the Packers have paid Aaron Rodgers, they're doing all this other finagling and maneuvering with the salary cap. They would have to be trying to clear a way to figure out a long-term deal with Davante Adams, right? Like, why would Aaron Rodgers come back if arguably the best wide receiver in football, his number one, isn't coming back? That wouldn't make sense on the surface, and it doesn't. Why would the Packers be looking to trade their number one wide receiver when they just brought back Aaron Rodgers for a few more years for a shit ton of money? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and you're right. So when we saw this deal go down yesterday, late afternoon, early evening, this was shocking. And then the fact that the Raiders gave him a 5-year, $140+ million contract, Davante got paid. It was a big, big surprise. And I'm still trying to figure out the reasoning behind this, frankly, for both sides. When I look at this from a Green Bay Packers perspective, you could make the argument, certainly, that once you paid Aaron Rodgers only but so much money to go around, that Aaron Rodgers wasn't really caring so much about putting a winner around him. He wanted to get paid as much as possible. And if that is his priority, so be it. Like, the number one goal of the program in the NFL or any professional sport is to make as much as you can when you can. It's not that dorky fan stuff about, oh, want to win titles. Winning is all that matters. No, getting paid is what matters most. Winning is a nice byproduct. Winning is nice. But if you can get $50 million a year, you got to get that. Like, that is generational wealth. Well, not for Aaron Rodgers, because it's not like he's giving that to any family. But you can only pay so many people. No matter how fugazi or fugazi the fucking salary cap is, or how much financial wrangling you can do from one year to the next. At some point in time, those chickens come home to roost. There is only so much diverting of the impacts or kicking the can down the road that you could do. And at some point in time, you got to come to grips with reality. So I get that. However, though, it doesn't seem like General Manager Brian Gutekunst gets the basic concept of, if you're going to bring back Aaron Rodgers, that means you're all in. This is your championship window. You've already blown the past few seasons in part because you truly didn't go all in. This is the exact opposite of going all in. You're trading away the one reliable, consistent, top-level option you have in the passing game. Who the hell does that? I mean, seriously. How does this align with going all in? Now, if you looked at the Packers and you said, hey, let's pretend for a second. Let's say that Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling were showing themselves to be capable of developing into number one, number two options at the NFL level. And you said, okay, Davante almost at this point kind of becomes a luxury when we want to get younger, cheaper at this position. You could make an argument for that and say, we're going to take Davante Adams, who's a bit of a luxury, flip him into picks that can help us in the draft now, and allow us to construct or add other pieces to this team to help us to win now. That could potentially make sense. But Allen Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling are not those type of players and don't appear to be developing into those type of players, nor does somebody like an Amari Rodgers at this point. Now, you could make the argument that the Green Bay Packers have done well in recent seasons without Davante Adams in the lineup, but at some point in time, you need impact players in the playoffs. You need stars. You need guys that you can go to. You need guys that you can count on. You look at the Rams. Cooper Kupp was a Super Bowl MVP for a reason. When shit was on the line, Matthew Stafford could go to Cooper Kupp. It's like a Joe Burrow could go to a Jamar Chase. So I find it really weird that the Packers would look at this and say, no, we don't want it. Now, there is that recent precedent of what the Vikings did a few years ago when trading away Stephon Diggs to the Buffalo Bills. At the time, I kind of criticized it in this sense of, why would you trade away the proven commodity just to backfill him with a guy at the same spot at 22? But it was Justin Jefferson, and that looks kind of foolish for me to say that now. So there is some precedent there. So if you're saying, by getting that first-round pick from the Raiders, that it gives you 2 picks in the back half of that first round, and you can address wide receiver with one of those 2 picks, or you're going to take guys on the offensive and defensive line with those 2 picks, that'd be fantastically fucking awesome. You know what? Then you can make an argument there. But it still strikes me as really odd that you bring in Aaron Rodgers like this to go all in, and you take away the one consistent, reliable, sure weapon that you had in the offense, when some of these other guys really had challenges and struggles to get open and to get separation. What's this passing game in Green Bay going to look like now? I mean, it's just really, really weird. Are you going to play Jordan Love at wide receiver? I mean, come on. Was it just the fact that you heard Aaron Rodgers call Davante Adams' family or say that was my brother, and you said, yeah, we already see where this is going. We got to get rid of him now. I don't know. But from the Raiders' standpoint, I can certainly understand if a lot of Raiders fans are popping wood for this at this point. Because you're talking about a situation where Russell Wilson has been added to the division. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. The Chargers made a big splash with Khalil Mack. They've brought back Mike Williams. They've re-signed him. Like, that AFC West looks like it's going to be a fucking meat grinder. And if you're Raiders, you're sitting there and you're saying, do we have the worst quarterback of the division, even though Derek Carr is pretty damn good? You know, what are we going to do to answer? Signing a Chandler Jones, who is a better player than Khalil Mack historically, statistically. The evidence backs it up. Okay, like that's one answer, but that's not all. What are you going to do to help out Derek Carr? Because especially with the Henry Ruggs III shit that went on last season, and he's gone now, you've got a Hunter Renfrow who's great. Darren Waller's a tight end who's also great. But you need that bona fide top guy. Now you bring in a Davante Adams and you say, sucks to your ass, Mar Piggy. Here's your answer. Here's your response. It's not a bad response. Now, the initial reaction to this big, massive contract is, holy hell. But again, this is talking about overall values that don't matter because he's never going to see it. It's all in the devil of the details of the guaranteed number, which I believe is around $65 million, which effectively makes it a 2-year contract. All right? Like, that's effectively what we're talking about. Most all of the guarantees, I would have to imagine, are in the first 2 years. And then you figure out what happens in a couple of years if you're the Raiders. So they've made a statement that they're going all in by signing Chandler Jones, by trading for Davante Adams, by foregoing their first and second round picks. There's a part of me that wants to question this philosophy for the Raiders a little bit and say, you kicked the can down the road into the Gruden and Mayock era. You never truly rebuilt like you should have from the top, from the bottom up. But that era is gone now. Now it's the Ziegler-McDaniels era, and you're trying to contend in that division. You didn't move on from Derek Carr, so Derek Carr is there. Therefore, you've got to go for it now. And this is the type of move that you make to go for it now. And if you're being completely honest here, when you look at the Raiders the past few years, what fucking confidence do you have that they would get their first round picks right anyways, right? I understand new general manager, but what do you have to point to that gives you some great confidence that they know what they're doing with their first round pick? Or their second round pick for that matter. So for the Raiders to be in that spot, to take those two kind of premium picks, isolate the damage all to one draft, which I thought was a key thing, and be able to bring in a legit number one wide receiver, arguably the best wide receiver in the game, certainly reasons to do that. Certainly reasons to be excited about that. Now, how well is this going to work out in the long term? I don't know about all that. Because I find it kind of weird that, I thought this was maybe a thing of Davante Adams was going because the Raiders were offering him more money and he wanted more money. And no, that's not the case. In fact, I believe it's been reported the Packers offered him slightly more. So Davante Adams is taking a little less money to choose to go play with his friend from college who is a lesser quarterback in a much tougher division. That is a choice. He better be right about it, I guess. Or either way, it doesn't matter. He just got $65 million guaranteed, so fuck it. Whatever else happens is a bonus after that. But it is a big type of move. It's a big type of risk for the Raiders. You can't just sit there and minimize it and say, well, it's a slam dunk no-brainer. Bringing in guys past the age of 30 to that type of number and giving up those type of draft picks, those type of moves tend to not go very well. Or not even happen a lot. So you better hope it works out well. Now, Davante Adams certainly clearly is still in the peak of his career and would be in the peak of his career for the next 2 or 3 years when you're looking at all that guaranteed money on the deal happening anyways. But what happens for the Raiders if you make this big move and yet you're only the third or fourth best team in the division? Like, I could see the Raiders making this move a lot more if they said this was the glaring obvious. They needed a difference maker on offense, and having that difference maker makes them a Super Bowl contender. But they had too many flaws in their roster, and even some of the work they've done this offseason hasn't addressed them enough to where you can feel like they're a Super Bowl contender. So it's really odd to make an all-in move when you're not really positioned to be an all-in team. Meanwhile, for the Green Bay Packers, it's really odd to make an anti-all-in move when you're supposed to be fucking all-in. And if you were going to do this with Davante Adams, fine. You can sometimes make the argument that this is the right thing to do. But why wouldn't you have invested more heavily in the wide receiver position the past couple of years? Like, that's just stunningly stupid and cannot be defended. Which then begs the whole question, if you were going to end up trading Davante Adams anyways, why would you bring back Aaron Rodgers? Why not start the rebuild now if you're Green Bay? I don't get it. So it may work out for Green Bay because there's still some veteran wide receivers that could bring in to plug in a gap, but they're certainly not going to plug in a Davante Adams-sized hole in the offense. You could make an argument that it might be better for the offense overall to more evenly share and distribute the ball in the passing game and get more weapons instead of having so much tied into one great one. You could make an argument there. But it's a risk for the Packers. And it's also a risk for the Raiders. And frankly, it's still a deal that I'm trying to wrap my head around, because it was certainly a surprise.